The Entrepreneurial You is brought to you by JPS, powering what matters.
It's time to unleash the entrepreneurial spirit in you. Time to take that step towards leading and excelling in life and business. Whether you're starting with an idea or you're looking to scale up, there's something here for everyone. So, follow me on this journey of unleashing and celebrating the entrepreneur in you. This week on the Entrepreneurial You, we zoom in on the great work of Michelle Chong, CEO and co-founder of Honey Bun Limited. And in our Vox Pop, we asked, what do you think entrepreneurs sacrifice in order to run a business? Plus, residential real estate and banks being caught up in the home buying frenzy, we explore in our Trending Now segment. And in our startup stories, Kimberly Fisher and Arthur Care is under the SME spotlight. This and more on today's episode of the Entrepreneurial You. As a young woman, Michelle Chong went from being a full-time teacher to becoming the manager of a manufacturing company, all in a short time. She got an early start into an industry that she wasn't prepared for, but was sure to dominate. Michelle spent over 3 decades dedicating and reapplying her earlier learned skills to the growth and development of her family business, a business that has served them well. With a bachelor's degree focused in arts and mathematics from York University, as well as a degree in psychology from the University of the West Indies, this past president of the Jamaica Exporters Association's diverse background has set her up for her more current roles as a business coach, mentor, employee trainer, and business development facilitator. Today, Michelle is able to merge her two passions, teaching and business management, where her experience and success in the food and beverage sector, coupled with her leadership qualities from her days in education, are helping to steer small and medium enterprise owners into the right direction as young entrepreneurs. What methods and processes does this boss lady apply to her business, and how has she been able to maintain them? We're about to find out. Serving her industry with pride, passion, and purpose, a business mogul, Michelle Chong, co-founder of the successful Honey Bun Limited and 2016 Business Suite Businesswoman of the Year, is one high-performing female leader with over 35 years at the helm of a baking company that has not only stood the test of time, but continues to ace the test of quality. After so many years in business, how does one reinvent themselves and reestablish their brand to become a transformational force? Michelle tells us how as we talk entrepreneurship, politics, and philanthropic work. Michelle, it is such a pleasure to be hosting you today for this conversation.
Thank you, Heneka. It's my pleasure. My privilege, actually.
Absolutely. So let's get into entrepreneurship. When did you know that you wanted to become an entrepreneur?
Actually, I think it's a very cultural thing. I don't think one just always wake up and say, I want to be a nurse or a doctor, an entrepreneur, okay?
Right.
It's where life takes you. So I was married in 1982 and my husband bought a business. I was a teacher at the time, and it was only a natural for your husband to say, come on, work in the business. I think a Chinese culture.
Indeed. So Michelle, your husband invited you to be in business with him. What business was that?
This was Honey Bun, actually.
Oh, the same.
That was
Honey
1982.
Oh my gosh.
Yes,
from 1982 until now. That's what, over 35 years. Isn't that true? Oh my gosh. Long time. All right. So in those early days at Honey Bun, right, I want you to kind of take us into that space. What was it like? One, for you as an entrepreneur, for the very first time getting your feet wet, and also what the business itself was about at that time.
Okay, so as with most entrepreneurs, when you just start a business, you're wearing all the hats. Yep, you're doing everything. In fact, I remember a story where we had a cake decorator and we took orders for wedding cakes, which he would normally do. And we had this order and he quit. So here we had an order for somebody's wedding and we didn't have a cake decorator. Well, Michelle goes and buys some cake decorating books. And there was a beautiful wedding cake.
Oh, wow. So you actually learned.
I learned very quickly how to decorate cakes.
Nothing like on-the-job training, right?
That was real on the job.
Right, real on the job. So that was your, getting your feet wet and so on. But the business itself, take us a little into, the genesis of it. What was the staff complement like? How did you build your team? Things like those.
In those days, you didn't really think like that. You just took one day at a time. It was just about, what needs to be done today. Well, you need to open up, you need to schedule the staff. So I was just 22. So I wasn't thinking so much about the future like business people nowadays perhaps think. I was just taking it one day at a time, and I had my first child that year too. So it was a busy year.
So you had your child that year, you're 22, you just leave teaching and you're into business. I'm kind of baffled just thinking about it, not knowing anything about entrepreneurship. How did you get through day by day to day?
Okay, so I remember there were days when the baby's playpen was in the office and you're doing everything just the same, and you just have to make do. Whatever faces you have to make do. So the business was such that we inherited the culture of the previous owner, which was not ideal now that I know more about business, because the workers were almost doing things the way they're accustomed. There's no training, there's no set rules or standards. It was just, they just come to work and they do what they're doing. So it was a long learning curve for us.
So you kind of alluded to it a bit earlier, but I want to kind of get a sense of how has the business landscape changed from when you set foot, there to now. What has been that transformation like?
I think what it is that I'm the type of person who always want to do things the right way. So I think that was a big thing for the business. So just wanting to do things the right way without shortcut meant that I eventually learned that, we need to document more processes so that people can follow instructions. So there was a lot of documentation involved. And it served me well, because when we did our HACCP certification program, or International Food Safety Program, it was a lot about documenting. So it might seem dull to some people, but it works. Even in a new business I'm doing now, documentation. As soon as we talk about something and we need to do something, we write the standard operating procedures.
Document, systemize,
yes,
and so on.
And repeat it.
And repeat that, right?
So that you can keep repeating it, and then you find other things that you want to improve on. So it's a matter of continuous improvement.
All right, so 35 years in business, what would you say, give me 2 or so key points that you think account for that longevity in business?
Well, the first one is always about planning. So, I guess this was just a part of who I was, why I would document what my plans were for this year. Write it down. Don't just keep it in your head. So I wrote it down, and as I grew more, I started to put timelines on things that I needed to achieve over the year. So it wasn't just planning, it was also meeting timelines. And, it was much later now that I learned how important it was to be able to hire other people to take on more responsibility and relieve you of those responsibilities. I wish I'd learned it a little bit earlier, but it is what it is. And now I would say that's one of the most important things. Just find talent and let them help you and support you, so you're not wearing that single hat, that everybody's hat all the time.
Yeah, and you say that, but it's easier said than done as an entrepreneur,
Yes.
because we all think about, we have our babies and we don't want to, we think that we're the only one who can do it, right?
Only one.
So take us through the mindset that you went through, the frame of mind that you had when you recognized that you had to take on other people to do other things, because you just can't do it all, right? How was that for you?
It was challenging because, I always figured that, and I think it wasn't till the last couple of years that I learned that, as my coach told me, you deprive them of the opportunity to learn when you do the things for them. So you really have to step back and allow them to fall a little bit, and you pick them up, you dust them off, and you go again. So it's a learning curve to just constantly be delegating the things that you do to other people. In fact, I was told by my coach to write down all the things I do now that I'm going to be delegating in the next 2 months. So I made my list and I said, okay, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. And you have to learn that. And this is when you begin to learn that talent, when you hire talent, it helps a lot. So this is something I've been improving on over the years, just to be able to hire more talent, be very focused on what you want them to achieve and hold them accountable for it.
Right, and the importance too is what I'm picking up from you of coaching, right? It doesn't matter how good you think you are.
Yes.
I think we all need to have a coach.
For so many of the 35 years I operated without a coach because of course you couldn't afford one. That was the case for everything, but could you afford not to have one? That's another question. So
perspective is everything, huh?
Yes. So now I think that there's a lot more available for people. There's online training, there's free online training. Those weren't available before. So you got to take advantage of all that is available to you and just constantly be learning, because nobody knows everything. And I can always be learning something new.
So what would you say young entrepreneurs today are lacking that, it's actually preventing them from getting to their full potential?
Heneka, I think one of the things is something that maybe SMEs don't love to hear, but they just absolutely have to engage corporate governance. It sounds like, what's corporate governance?
Yeah, it sounds like a very big thing,
like
and it's going to cost them a whole lot.
Yes, no. Really, it's just doing the right thing all the time. Governance, what are the rules of the company? So I remember it was quite early in Honey Bun's year that I found that it started off with 2 very casual directors who came into weekly meetings and had discussions with us. And one of those persons is now one of our directors. So we would just have lunch once a week. That's how casual it was. You can't really look at that and say it's governance, but guess what? We spoke about the business, we spoke about the things we were going to do to improve the business. And so that was where it started. We would meet every week. We talk about what we were going to do, what we needed to do, and it evolved. And we invited 1 or 2 other persons. And before long, my accountant was saying to me that, you guys have to go on the stock exchange because you're already doing the things that a company should do. So we were writing reports, we were having meetings, we were engaging other persons in the business to also give reports. So you're never too small to start governance, even if it's a lunch.
So the importance of getting it right from as early as possible.
Because you're building a strong foundation.
Absolutely. And if you don't have our foundations right, then you're going to grow and crumble. Time to take our first break. More conversations and insights from the co-founder and CEO of Honey Bun, the Entrepreneurial You. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Entrepreneurial You. Welcome back to the Entrepreneurial You. With me today is Michelle Chong of Honey Bun. All right, so what's it like for you during this time operating in the pandemic? Everybody's faced with these, in these trying times. What is it like for Honey Bun?
So Heneka, thank God we're in a good industry. We're in an industry where we provide food. So that's good. So it has not been as bad for us as it would be for those businesses that lost a lot of business, okay? So the challenges we've had have more to do with how it has affected our staff, their turnout, transportation during the curfews. So that's where most of the impact has been. But the staff have been so supportive. They're coming out. But of course, you have people who get sick. So we've had a lot of sick in terms of attendance, especially this year. especially this year. So, everybody's sick with flu. So that's been the major challenge, just keeping our staff available for work.
Right.
I mean, we started to do transportation, pickup of staff at their homes for various shifts because the bus wasn't running. And I think that, and we spoke about foundation before, part of our foundation also had to do with food safety, because we were very high on food safety, being an internationally food certified company, HACCP. So a lot of the things that we were already doing served us through the pandemic, because we were already looking at food safety before.
All right. And some of those things, I mean, we talked about systems in general before. In addition to the HACCP certification and all of that, what systems did you already have or implemented during the pandemic that you think, allow you to keep afloat?
Well, one of the systems that we implemented was separation or segregation of staff on different lines. So we had to implement color-coded headwear so that you had all the cake people in one area. And of course, you look at the cameras, and if you see a pink hat in a blue area, that would be like an alarm, so that if anyone should get sick, it would be confined to the line that they were on. So that was one of the things.
Wow, that is pretty, I mean, it sounds very simple, but it seems very effective as well. Let's turn our attention a bit to a little politics, right? How do you think, or what do you think about the government's handling of anything to do with pandemic at this time?
Well, I'm just thanking God I'm not in government, because I would like to be at the helm to make those tough decisions they're making. And my philosophy is nobody's perfect. There's no one right answer. And so if I don't like it, it doesn't mean that my opinion is right. I just lift my hat to whoever has to make those decisions, because they're tough. They're tough decisions. And I suppose the natural thing to do would be to follow the global standards. So who am I to complain? I don't know more than them. And I can only say we have to be forgiven if they didn't make the right steps, because none of us have experienced anything like this before.
And I think what your response and, this talk about what the government is doing or not doing and so on, it shifts us now into leadership as it relates to entrepreneurship. When you started out as a leader, how would you define yourself? How have you transitioned? And what kind of leader are you now? It's a loaded question.
That's okay.
Right?
That's my kind of question. So I think that when I just started off, of course, it was just being a manager. I don't think I understood what true leadership was. So you're just a manager. Of course, if you were kind to people at times, all the time, you would get far, because you find people work for you, they like you, they do more for you. But more recently, I've really learned a lot more about leadership and influence of people, how to get leadership down to the supervisors, down to everyone in your organization can be a leader. So that is something that I'm really passionate about, developing leadership throughout the organization. In fact, Honey Bun has now hired someone who their role is just to develop leadership throughout the company. So that's something I'm recently so excited about, just developing that leadership skill throughout the organization.
So what kind of leader would you say you are now?
Me?
Yes.
No? I would like to think that I'm purposeful, because you have, as a leader, you need a purpose. So my purpose is really to continue to teach, and so it was through the Honey Bun Foundation.
You're not giving up teaching, right?
No, not giving up teaching. I was born a teacher.
Okay.
Yes. So through the Honey Bun Foundation, we are working with small and medium-sized entrepreneurs to be able to help them to do business easier by developing the models that they need to be able to follow, so that they don't have to wait till they're so many years old before they start to succeed. We want them to succeed now. So the other thing as it relates to leadership is that we call it networking, and very often I will call it collaborating. So how is it you're going to work with the people that you're meeting on a day-to-day basis? And I often speak about collaboration almost being the opposite of competition. So we all love to compete.
I remember that conversation we had for your business matters on Exim Bank, right?
Yes.
Competition versus collaboration.
Right.
Yes.
Same story. You have to be able to collaborate because we're a small country. We don't compete with each other. We compete with the world because the market is the world.
Absolutely.
So if you as a baker and I'm a baker, we can come together and make something, then we can export more. Collaboration is something that I really am passionate about. So when the Honey Bun Foundation launched, we launched with two legs. One was collaboration and the other one was leadership. So those two words are very near and dear to my heart. And to be able to help other businesses helps me to fulfill my purpose.
Which is?
Which is to, through the foundation, to develop business models for SMEs and the creative industry in Jamaica to make us more, to earn more as a company and improve our business wealth. Because, you know, as a previous president of the Jamaica Exporters Association, I feel very passionate about Jamaica exporting, earning more foreign exchange. So if we can develop the models for companies to be able to do that better, then that's what my purpose is.
So obviously your foundation is fulfilling there's a gap somewhere as it relates to entrepreneurship. What do you see that gap to be?
I know you want to hear more on that from Michelle. We'll have the details when we return from this quick break. You're watching the Entrepreneurial You. My guest for today, CEO of Honey Bun Limited, Michelle Chong.
There were a number of things, and I've narrowed it down to 4. And the first one I found was training was not something that business people have. They just have a talent and they just want to go into business to make money out of the talent. And they do a good job of their talent, but they're not business savvy. So they needed more training. So what we did in a way to collaborate was we put all the training that existed on the ecosystem on one platform, the honeybunfoundation.com, so that people could go there to find the training that they need instead of going to the yellow pages. I don't know how people find out what they need to do. Getting a degree. People just needed quick ways to find out where to go for training, how much is it going to cost, when is it. So that was the first thing. There was a lack of collaborated training for businesses. The second one was, and I always thought about this because I did an interview with one of the organizations, and they were supposed to assist the businesses through the JEA on finding out what their business needed to do or improve. So I said, well, test Honey Bun first. So they did. And the report took about 60 days to come back to me. And then at the end of it, they told me everything I told them about my business. They just regurgitated it. I don't remember what they told me to do. So it occurred to me that we needed to develop a quick way to do an analysis of a business. So I identified 12 major areas of business. And what we did was we got when we spoke to the computer persons who were going to write the app for us, they loved the program so much that they sponsored it. They wrote the Gap app for us. Neritech for us, yes.
Yes, I know them. Yes.
So you go onto the app, you download it, and you ask we ask you about 15 or 20 questions, and then it returns to you a score on each area of your business. So you either get a red with a 20% score or you get a green with an 80% score. So you knew what areas in your business you need to work on, because many business owners, they don't know what they're doing wrong.
Right.
They don't know what they don't know.
So they keep repeating.
Yes. They may not know there's something called corporate governance.
Right. There is, according to, so we know Abraham Maslow for the hierarchy of needs.
Right.
He talks about the 4 stages of learning, right?
Yes.
So the first stage is unconscious incompetence.
Okay.
So you don't know that you don't know.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
So at the end of the Gap app, where you answer the question, it tells you also which organizations will help you to improve on those shortcomings that you have. So it's free. So that was the next thing that we figured that we needed to do, have this sort of service for those businesses to understand what they needed to do. The third one, which is kind of exciting because we're just launching our first cohort, is an advisory committee for businesses. So each company, we just took on 9 new companies through the Honey Bun Foundation, and we give them 3 business leaders in different areas. So one company might have someone in accounts, marketing, distribution, but they get 3 advisors who will meet with them on a frequency to be agreed. Usually it's 12 months. The period is 12 months right now, and they meet every other month. They help them with their financial reporting so that they can run their business like a business. It's surprising how many of them are kind of just
going through the motion,
just winging it.
Yeah, and that's how we start entrepreneurship. Like many of us, so we're not, we're out of many one people, right? But not all of us are Chinese, so we don't have that culture of businesses, and we just we're not from that culture of start a business and you try and excel in it. We just kind of wing it. It's just recently though,
I think our talent is enough.
Yeah, we think our talent is enough, and I think too, particularly for creative people, I think one of the challenges is that you have this mindset that your creative work is not for sale, and you hear this argument of people selling out, particularly those in creative industries. They don't want to sell out because they're doing it for the love, but that can't pay the bills.
No, and that's a very key point for me because I believe that our creative industry in Jamaica is our main competitive advantage.
Absolutely,
we cannot compete with China and manufacturing, Silicon Valley with IT. So what are we going to do?
Use what we have.
We use what we have, and we're the most creative culture. We have other countries coming into the space now. We see Africa coming into the space. We have Korea, who came in with Gangnam Style, right? But we're
you're very current.
Yeah.
So
we have to find a way to monetize those creative industries. We have to. So that's one of the things the foundation is working actively to do.
So Michelle, hearing you talk about the foundation, the Honey Bun Foundation, it seems as if it's the best kept secret because, I've heard about it before, right? But I'm not sure how many entrepreneurs in Jamaica are actually aware of it.
Okay.
So I think now is a good time for you just to share a little more, about where I think you did give a website before.
Yes.
But just share a little more in depth about that.
Okay, so we have a website called thehoneybunfoundation.com. So that's where you can go to see the training calendar. You'll get information about the GAP app as well. And what we're doing with the advisory board, which was the third model we've developed, is we're working with other organizations to adopt the model. So you may experience the advisory committee model at some point and not even know that it's Honey Bun that has been putting together the framework for what are the best practices for advisory committees. Because we did a test with 10 companies and maybe 30 advisors, and we had feedback, so we developed the standard for best practice for advisory committees. A lot of times people had a one-on-one mentor, a one-on-one coach, but that coach was not necessarily rounded in all the skills that a business needed. So we've developed a best practice model. So that was the third model. And the fourth one that we have yet to complete now, and this is our second year in business, is our back office support. And so we will use that particularly for the creative industry. So the things that they can't do well, they have to understand them, but they don't have to do them. So they don't have to necessarily keep their finances. But when somebody gives them their results, they need to be able to say, something doesn't look right here, or ask the right question. So that's the back office support that we will develop as a model. So coming back to why you started to ask the question, it's about my passion. So that's my passion. I'm still a teacher.
And you've touched on finances, but we have to go to the break, and I'm going to come back to that. Stay with us. More on the Entrepreneurial You when we come back. We soon come. Welcome back. Michelle Chong, CEO and co-founder of Honey Bun, sharing the sweet stuff.
Thank you, Heneka.
Absolutely. All right, so before the break, we touched a little on finance, or we alluded to the fact that we want to talk about that. So, in the Jamaican landscape for entrepreneurs, I have seen in conversation that that's one of the biggest challenge and factors, factor really preventing entrepreneurs from moving forward.
Yes.
What has been your observation?
My observation as it relates to other companies or work with other companies?
Well, just work in general with entrepreneurs, particularly even, as you interact with entrepreneurs.
Well, they have a difficulty accepting it as something that they really need. Mm-hmm. They just kind of are very hands-off. And then when you start to work with them, it's not something they love to do. Mm-hmm. They just want to do what they love to do, and they don't want to work with the financial side of things. So, back office.
Right.
They need support.
So that's from the perspective of the entrepreneurs themselves not wanting to do it, perhaps because they really don't know how to do it. And
yes.
Believe it or not, I don't like to do anything at all with finance.
There you go.
Like, as an entrepreneur for all these years, I don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing. But there's also the other aspect of not being able to get funding for your business.
Oh boy.
Oh. That's a big one, right? So let's talk about what obtains in Jamaica. Are we on the right trajectory? Do we need to shift things up a bit? What say you?
I don't know that I'm the expert to speak on this matter, but I know
as it
that
relates to bank. Let's zone it in as it relates to the banking structure and all of that.
Right.
Yes.
So I've been working with entrepreneurs now for a couple of years, and I've also been on boards that speak about finance. And I understood the banks when they say, well, SMEs aren't ready for finance because they don't have the financials and they don't have the documents, they don't have any records, etc. So I said, fine, I agree, I accept. So now after working 2 years with SMEs, I have brought a couple of SMEs up who are now doing their bookkeeping properly. They have their projections, they have their business plans. And Heneka, I'm also now investing in farming. So I also made an example of myself to prepare the work as a CEO of Honey Bun with experience that I have for 35 years to apply for a loan. And Michelle Chong, CEO of Honey Bun, helped to prepare the projections and the cash flow and all the documents, the marketing, the business plan. And when you take it to the bank and you think you're ready now, maybe there's something I missed, I don't know. But the banks are going to take forever. They're going to go back and forth. So they have a process. In the process, they ask you for these documents to be able to give you a pre-approval, which you need to be able to finalize the sale of the property or the business. And they don't have any problem giving you the pre-approval, but guess what? The pre-approval really don't say anything, because after that, that's when they start to ask for
your DNA.
And
your police record, all these things, right?
So remember now, to do the deposit on the business or the property, I had to get a lawyer, I had to get a valuation, I had to pay legal fees, as I've said before, and there were a number of other fees to pay. So if they decline you,
all that money gone up into smoke, eh?
Right.
So
why don't they put more emphasis on a longer period to give you a pre-approval, so you know that, okay, they've asked me for 10,000 documents and I've gotten the pre-approval, so let me put the deposit now, pay the lawyer, get the valuation. So it's just really messed up, because the couple of companies that I have worked with and brought them to the face to apply for the loan, one of them has said to me they can't bother do this. This is just taking too much out of them to give them these things that they want. After the initial set of things they want, then they're going to keep coming back with all sorts of things. And sometimes 9 months or more later, you're still on this path to try to get a loan.
And so it seems to me that the banks were saying initially that the SMEs are not ready. And perhaps they weren't ready.
Maybe they weren't ready.
But they've now taken the necessary steps to be ready.
Yes.
Yet there is something else.
Yes.
And so many times I see different divisions within the bank promoting themselves as, SME friendly, when in fact, SMEs are having all these challenges. So what needs to be done in your mind, Michelle,
Well,
to shift this?
I think there definitely has to be a concerted, genuine effort to resolve this issue. The fact that the banks have their hands tied because they
And genuine effort by who, may I ask?
I'm not going to say. Yes, because I think that there are people who are genuinely interested, but the needle just won't move. It's going to need a strong leader to fight for that. So, it's like how we had to fight for end of slavery. We have to fight for recognition of these SMEs who are ready to take the risk. I mean, I had adequate security for the loan, so I'm not saying that they didn't. They declined me fully, but it was a long road, and I could have given up a long time ago. So I invested my own money. I've invested my own money in it because I'm not going to the bank.
Right. Let's talk about you. You've invested your own money. So many entrepreneurs, to start with, they bootstrap, they probably get loans and some grants from family, friends, whatever. How did Honey Bun over the years fund its operations?
Well, when we started off in 1982, banking was a much friendlier place. Derek Rose was our bank manager, and it was a lot easier to do banking through handshakes and relationships. No. Those are.
Is it about the fact that many of these banks are listed, or some of these main ones are listed on the stock market, and it's all about profits and so on? Because it's funny to me, and I know I'm going in a circle here, but when I think about it, right, I think about the fact that it's easier to get a loan for a car.
Definitely.
Right? Is it perhaps because if it's repossessed and you can sell it and the banks make money? I don't know.
Maybe.
Why? Why is this? And I'm genuinely concerned about this because personally for me, I've never had a challenge getting a loan. Because then there's a flip side where you get a loan so easily, but it's not about how do you manage that money, right?
Right.
So what good is, I think there's a proverb that says, what good is money in the hands of a fool, right? I'm not saying that I'm a fool, but if you don't know how to handle it well, then, so there's also that side. But we need to strike a balance. And I would really want us to explore, how can we collectively make that change when we know that, we are doing as entrepreneurs, doing what we need to do, but yet the banking sector, is holding
the SMEs
reins.
are going to have to get a strong leader to push this process through. It's not going to work because people who are on a board or working towards it are doing it as a part-time job, and they have a half interest in it. It's going to have to be genuine. It's going to have to be a strong leader who's prepared to speak up, say unkind things, and get it done.
Guess what? We have more to share from this enlightening discussion. We wrap things up with Michelle Chong, plus check out our Vox Pop and Trending Now feature, all on the other side of this break. Welcome back to the Entrepreneurial You. Zooming in interview with Michelle Chong.
Let's zone in on Michelle. As an entrepreneur, this teacher who her husband invited into the business, that moment for you when you sit down and you think to yourself, wow, I'm really doing well. I'm really proud of myself. I really like what I'm doing.
The moment that I'm thinking of, Heneka, has to do with my recent decision to hire a leadership consultant. Because I've always been interested in development of people. I actually studied psychology in university so I could become a counselor. I tricked my dad. He was an old-fashioned person. He thought I was doing psychiatry, so he was like, okay. It was psychology.
Secret is out.
But he's not around anymore.
Okay.
Yes, so to see people grow. So it's really amazing for me, and my leadership consultant, she'll be surprised to hear this, but I've reached.
I've arrived.
I've arrived. I'm doing it. All the time I'm working with the people, the staff and so forth, and I want to see them growing. I want to see them going into new jobs, Even when they leave to go into business, I'm trying to help them to get their businesses to work. I want to see people grow and develop, and this is a very strong part of the leadership model that we want people to recognize as being what is going to take Jamaica forward.
What do you want your legacy to be?
Well, I don't necessarily need it to be about Michelle Chong, but I would like to know that when I'm gone, businesses will have certain models that they can use to succeed.
And your foundation would have been
And
very
the foundation would
instrumental
have
in
been,
that.
and that's how I would like to have that. We would love to also make sure that there's still Honey Bun around long from now, and that they're very successful. We're currently in an expansion phase again because we've utilized the building that we have, that we renovated or we made it, introduced 2 or 3 new lines, maybe 4 years ago or 3 years ago. So we've utilized that. So we need more space, which we have in the pipeline. So we will be expanding, and Honey Bun will still be around. And we'll be a 100
to the air. Can I say sweet so many times? Sweet. The Entrepreneurial You, voice of the people.
Well, you have to tighten up certain things, you know. And, you have to tighten up certain things. If you used to party, you have to tighten up certain things. If you used to do certain loose things, you have to tighten it up. And also, a business is one of the things I am.
So they have an account, right? And they say, okay, I'm going to start a business. I think they have to sacrifice like their whole savings, like maybe it's their life savings or their time, jobs and so on, just to start a business, not knowing if it will go well or not.
Losing sales, if you're doing service, not getting orders, not getting clients, most of those stuff, and the other risks with having a business.
Time, personal time, family.
Family, overall mainly time.
High buildings, high prices, and high demands. The rising interest in property ownership has had buyers and sellers caught in the housing craze with little regard for costs. Jamaica is experiencing a robust real estate market, to say the least, and banks and financial institutions are all here for the profits. Real estate is likely one of the best stable investments one can make on the island, which appreciates over time as a relatively safe financial venture. Prospective homeowners and banks both recognize the earning power of these types of investments, which explains their keen and growing involvement in servicing mortgage loans. But how and why are banks eager to help us secure our dream homes? Let's take a closer look. The selling price for a house, apartment, or land today is possibly the lowest it will ever be. With that said, the mortgage lender stands to gain as a real estate owner who can resell repossessed properties if needs be. This resale is at a higher cost than the cost initially covered in loan disbursement. Also, mortgage lenders charge customers fees, including application fee and periodic maintenance fee. Some banks may offer a mortgage product package with a flat annual fee. Either way, customers are still paying fees outside of repayment of loans. Banks also have the opportunity to promote other financial products throughout the loan process in order to maximize their revenue. These include home renovation loans, refinance loans, and so on. Since mortgages involve borrowing a significant amount of money, which is usually repaid over decades, banks often like to sell as many mortgage products as possible, which often results in competition between banks for signing up borrowers. Banks also compete for customer deposits, which give them the money to lend to borrowers, so they select their interest rates to ensure they remain competitive in both respects. Bank-controlled real estate brokerages will most likely become marketing arms for mortgage departments. When this occurs, You can bet that more aggressive targeted marketing strategies will be applied to solicit more and more borrowers looking to finance the purchase of homes. There are pros and cons of using banks as mortgage lenders. You just have to identify the approach that works best for you. More on the Entrepreneurial You. Welcome back to the Entrepreneurial You.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Fisher-Williams, and I am the founder and CEO of Entrepreneurial Solutions. I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis at the age of 17, so the inspiration came from a desire to not have people suffer what I went through due to the lack of knowledge, aid, or support, especially those suffering from an early age.
Tired of waiting in queues for a taxi? Do you find the ambulance services too expensive? Why not try Arthriticare? We provide transportation to your doctor appointments. Schedule your visit ahead of time and leave the rest to us. We cater to persons who may need wheelchair access as well as nursing assistance. Book today on our website, www.arthriticare.jm.com.
Arthriticare came to life in 2021. COVID was an added burden for those suffering from arthritis, where quarantined family members were not able to cater to their loved ones as they would prior to the pandemic. However, people with these physical challenges were now more in need of help than ever before, in addition to their desire to stay healthy. Arthriticare responded to this need by providing products, aid, support, including transportation and education, to allow our customers to improve their quality of life. All our products, services, education, and support are the things I've benefited from over my 17 years of living with rheumatoid arthritis. Many people look at me and are shocked when I share with them that I suffer from RA. This I attribute to my lifelong lessons and experience overcoming the challenges of living with this disease. In addition to our existing range of services, we have just added non-emergency transportation. This service is a door-to-door service which takes our customers from their home to their doctor's appointment or treatment center in a convenient, reliable, and comfortable way. We have very courteous drivers who will pamper their passengers in many ways. This service includes the use of a wheelchair and a registered nurse assistant. The smiles on my customers' faces are my biggest reward. When my customers call me to share their relief they have gained from either the use of one of our products or the service they receive from booking their transport with us really makes this worthwhile for me. Arthriticare has and continue to change lives every day, and of this I am proud. The most challenging things I've had to overcome is the simple challenges of finding professional help in the support service required to get the business started. This ranges from the help with logistics, promotions, and the legal framework within which we have to operate. My dream for the business is to build a world-renowned company that takes a unique look at each arthritic patient and customize a life plan to help rid them of their pain and discomfort associated with the disease. We are now a discount partner of CCRP Group, where all the members get a 10% discount when they shop with us. We can be contacted at 876-423-5842 or visit our website at www.arthriticare.jm.com.
So many people tend to make the big mistake of is that they start businesses that were never going to be highly profitable from the very start. So they start businesses and they put so much effort, months or years, into businesses that were going to fail. For instance, like one of my clients came to me after trying to make a jewelry business for over a year, and she never made more than about $100 a month. Another client came to me, same kind of story, trying to do a lesson plan business, an online lesson plan business. I don't think she made over $20 a month. And Or people they think they are going to start a blog. This is so common. Moms think they're going to start blogs, and what they don't, because they hear, oh, this blogger makes a lot of money. And what they don't understand is there's 500 million bloggers out now. And even the top professionals, the stats elude me right now, but I think about 84% of bloggers make less than $105 a month. Only like the top of the top and work, including people with teams and things like that, make a livable wage. 8% make a livable wage, and that's considered, I think, over $2,000 or $3,000 a month. So we're not talking high profit for the time spent. This is a lot of effort. People think they're going to start a YouTube channel. You can't monetize till there's 10,000 subscribers now. So you're putting out so many hours of content just to get to the point where you can even start making money. You need 10,000 subscribers to even make a penny now on YouTube. So this is just an example of low profit for the time spent. So the way to shift it to high profit for the time spent is to take your existing skills, talents, and gifts, and we all have them. I could go into another mistake that I see a lot, but I'm going to stick with this right now in what we're doing right. You take your existing talents, skills, and gifts. You could have learned this from your mom, a previous job. It's something natural that comes to you. It's so natural you don't even realize it's a talent, and people will pay you to learn it. And I measure that on my profitability index that I have made over 13 years of business coaching to make sure that it is a high profit for the time spent business. I'll give an example. One of my clients, she came to me with so many offerings, but she wasn't getting consistent clients. And when she was, they were about in the $200 range. She had offerings from $47 all the way up to a couple $1,000s. So the easiest thing that we did was look at her offers, see what she enjoyed, and then pick the more profitable ones. And then really, really brand her for those high profit businesses. And guess what? Clients started coming in to her for that, because when she was offering all those offers, because she didn't want to take away clients, she wanted to be able to serve so many people didn't trust her. I personally would not want to spend $2,000 on someone who was offering like 10 other things, one thing starting at $47, all in different areas. It would make me feel like they're not the true expert at the higher end area. So this is an example of picking your most profitable and pleasurable and purposeful skills, talents, or gifts that you could make the most money from, and really going deep into that in order to create that high profit business.
Thanks so much to my guest, Michelle Chong, for spending time with me today, sharing story. I leave with you this word of hope for today. Eye has not seen, ear has not heard, nor have entered into the heart of man the things which God has in store for those who love him. 1 Corinthians 2, verse 9. Take care. Join us next week for another set of thought-provoking conversations with leaders, captivating features, and an opportunity to unleash the entrepreneurial spirit in you. The Entrepreneurial You was brought to you by JPS, powering what matters.